Mankind has been asking this one eternal question: are we alone in the universe? Is it possible that someday, something is gonna come flying down from one of those twinkling little dots in the night sky, snatch us up, and start doing all kinds of weird experiments on us? Well, today, we're diving deep into the stories of people who are absolutely convinced the answer to that question is a big ol' yes. We're talking about alien abductions, folks. And not just any abductions. These are 10 of the craziest, most mind-blowing accounts you'll ever hear. So strap yourselves in, because things are about to get weird. This is a wild one, man. Back in the early 90s, there was this woman in Australia named Amy Rylance. Now, Amy claims she was just chilling at home one night when out of nowhere she gets abducted. But here's the kicker: she says it was a beam of light, like straight out of a Spielberg movie. This beam just scoops her up and carries her away. Now, Amy's friend, Petra, she claims to have seen the whole thing go down. She said Amy just flew right out the window and got sucked into this spaceship. The weirdest part? They find Amy 800 kilometers, that's like 500 miles for us Americans, away from her house, and it had only been like 3 hours. 3 hours. To cover that kind of distance, you'd need to be traveling at like supersonic speeds, man. What's even crazier is that Amy said the whole experience wasn't even painful, but she did have these weird marks all over her body. This dude, Jesse Long, claims he's practically an alien abductee VIP. He says they've been snatching him up since he was a kid. One of his stories is just, well, it's out there, man. Jesse says he was playing in the woods with his brother when they stumbled upon this round metallic object. Next thing you know, they're both paralyzed and this tall, thin creature walks out. Classic alien stuff, right? But hold on, it gets weirder. Jesse says these aliens, they kept coming back for more, and not just for more abductions. He claims they were after his, wait for it, sperm. Yeah, you heard that right, sperm. Alright, let's head down to Brazil for this one. We've got Antonio Villas-Boas, a farmer, just trying to live his life when bam, aliens show up. Antonio's story is wild, man. It starts with him seeing this red light out in the sky. He thinks it's a plane, maybe something's gone wrong, so he goes to investigate. But as he gets closer, this thing, this scarlet-colored object, sucks him up inside. Now, inside the ship, things get really strange. Antonio claims he was forced into, and I'm not making this up, a forced copulation with a, quote, red alien. And from this encounter, he claimed to have fathered multiple children. Multiple alien. Chapter 4. Travis Walton, Fire in the Sky. This one is practically a classic in the world of alien abductions. The story of Travis Walton has fascinated and terrified people for decades. On November 5, 1975, Travis Walton and his logging crew were driving through the dense Arizona woods after a long day of work. Suddenly, they saw it. A UFO hovering above the trees, emitting an eerie glow. Walton, being the curious and perhaps a bit reckless type, decided to get out of the truck to get a closer look. His friends shouted for him to come back, but he was determined. Bad move, Travis. According to Walton, the UFO shot out a beam of light that struck him, lifting him off the ground. The next thing he knew, he was waking up inside a bizarre spaceship, surrounded by strange beings. Walton's story takes a unique turn here. Unlike many other abduction tales, he claims he didn't just sit back and let things happen. He says he actually fought back against these aliens, engaging in a physical struggle, almost like a scene out of an action movie. Imagine a full-on Chuck Norris-style brawl in the middle of a spaceship. The intense confrontation only ended when a mysterious figure in a black hat appeared. This figure, who seemed human, used some kind of sleeping gas to knock Walton out. When Walton regained consciousness, he found himself lying on a deserted road, staring up at the night sky. The UFO was disappearing into the distance, leaving him miles away from where he had been taken. His ordeal was far from over, as he now had to convince others of his incredible experience. Chapter 5. Colonel Shaw, the Stockton Spaceship. This one takes us way back, man, all the way to 1896. Picture it, the dusty streets of Stockton, California, bustling with horse-drawn carriages and the occasional bicycle. It was a time when the world was on the brink of technological wonders, yet still deeply rooted in the old ways. Colonel Shaw, he became a bit of a legend after his wild ride in a buggy. Imagine the scene, a decorated military officer, enjoying a peaceful ride through the countryside, not a care in the world. He's just cruising along near Stockton, California, when he sees this metallic ship just chilling in a field. It wasn't just any ship though, it was something out of this world, literally. A gleaming, otherworldly craft that seemed to defy the very laws of nature. Before he knows it, 3 7-foot-tall aliens emerge from the ship and start walking towards him. These weren't your typical little green men, they were towering, imposing figures that seemed to radiate an eerie, otherworldly presence. Now it seems like either tractor beams hadn't been invented yet, or these aliens were rocking a budget model spaceship because Shaw said they tried to drag him into the ship with hooks. Can you believe that? Hooks, like something out of a pirate movie. Hooks, man. Can you imagine? The sheer audacity of it. It's almost comical to think about these advanced beings resorting to such primitive methods. They eventually gave up though. Apparently, the colonel was just too heavy for them to handle. Maybe they underestimated the good old American diet, or perhaps Shaw was just a particularly sturdy fellow. Whether or not there's any truth to Shaw's story is up for debate. Some say it's a tall tale, a product of an overactive imagination. Others believe it's a genuine encounter, a glimpse into the unknown. But it does raise an interesting point. If even aliens can't abduct you because you're too heavy, maybe it's time to hit the gym, am I right? It's a humorous reminder that sometimes the best defense is a good offense, or in this case, a few extra pounds. What's crazy is that Colonel Shaw's story has endured for over a century, sparking debates and inspiring countless theories. It's a testament to the enduring power of a good story, and the mysteries that continue to captivate our imaginations. Chapter 6. Barney and Betty Hill, lost in New Hampshire. This is another one of those stories that just sends chills down your spine, man. Imagine driving down a lonely, dark road in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by nothing but trees and the occasional animal darting across the road. The air is thick with mist and every shadow seems to hide a secret. Barney and Betty Hill are driving home from a trip to Niagara Falls when they spot this glowing object in the sky. It's late at night and the road is deserted. They can't believe their eyes. What could it be? A plane? A satellite? They keep watching, trying to make sense of it. At first they think it's a shooting star, but then it starts moving upwards. Not just upwards, but in a way that defies all logic. It zigzags, it hovers, it darts around like nothing they've ever seen before. Their curiosity is piqued, and a sense of adventure takes over. Being the adventurous types, they decide to chase after this thing in their 1957 Chevy Bel Air. The car roars to life as they speed down the highway, the glowing object always just out of reach. The thrill of the chase is exhilarating, but also terrifying. Talk about a close encounter. The object ends up flying right over their car, bathing them in this strange light. They said it tickled. The light is so bright it feels like it's piercing through them, illuminating every corner of their minds. They feel a strange sensation, almost like a tingling, as if the light is probing them. Hours later they find themselves driving down a highway, 30 miles away from where they were, with absolutely no memory of how they got there. It's as if they've been transported through time and space. The road ahead is long and empty, and they feel a deep sense of unease. Talk about a mind-blowing detour. Soon after, both Barney and Betty start having these incredibly vivid dreams about being abducted. The dreams are so real they can feel the cold metal of the examination table, the strange instruments, the eyes watching them. They wake up in a cold sweat, their hearts pounding. They even start developing weird phobias. Barney becomes terrified of looking up at the sky while Betty can't stand the sight of bright lights. Their once normal lives are now filled with fear and uncertainty. They feel like they're being watched, like something is always lurking just out of sight. The most bizarre part? They found this weird pink powder on Betty's dress that no one could identify. It was like nothing they'd ever seen before, and no one could explain where it came from. The powder seemed to glow faintly, adding to the mystery. Of course, this was back in the 50s, so their ability to analyze materials wasn't exactly what it is today. Scientists tried their best with the tools they had, but the powder remained an enigma. The Hills story became one of the most famous UFO encounters in history, leaving everyone with more questions than answers. You know, one thing that always gets me about these alien abduction stories is the lack of physical evidence. It's like these extraterrestrial visitors are tidy, leaving no trace they were ever there. But in the case of Peter Hury, it seems they might have slipped up. In 1992, Peter Hury's story hit the headlines in Australia. He claimed that two women, one blonde and one Asian, materialized in his bedroom and, well, let's just say they engaged in some extracurricular activities. Now, Hury was adamant that this was no ordinary threesome. He even claimed he had proof, a strand of the blonde woman's hair that was tangled in a rare Australian plant in his backyard. This one is a real head-scratcher, man. Frederick Valentich, a young pilot in training, was on a solo flight over Australia when he vanished without a trace. It was October 1978, and Valentich was flying over the Bass Strait when he radioed in, saying he had an unidentified object hovering above him. Valentich described the object as being large and metallic, with bright lights. He said it seemed to be playing with him, flying erratically and approaching his plane. Then just like that, Valentich's transmission went dead. There was a strange metallic sound, and then silence. Search and rescue teams scoured the area but found no trace of Valentich or his plane. To this day, his disappearance remains one of Australia's most baffling mysteries. This story is a strange one, even for alien abductions. Two British women, Carol and Helen Thomas, were driving to work one morning when they saw a bright light and heard a strange humming sound. They stopped to investigate, and that's when things got weird. The next thing they remember, they were back in their car, miles down the road, with no memory of what had happened. They were hours late for work, and Helen's jacket was covered in this weird, unidentified liquid. Months later, both women started experiencing nightmares and anxiety attacks. Betty Anderson Lucas's story is one of the most detailed and bizarre accounts of alien abduction ever recorded. She claimed she was at home with her family when this invisible force swept through the house, lifting her up and pulling her through a window. According to Lucas, she was taken aboard a spaceship where these strange beings implanted an object in her skull. She said they told her it was a tracking device, that the universe would now be aware of her. Now Lucas was very specific in her descriptions of the aliens. She said they wore shoes and hovered above the ground, which, if you think about it, is kind of weird. So there you have it, folks, 10 of the most mind-blowing alien abduction stories ever told. Are they true? Who knows, man? That's the thing about these stories. They're often shrouded in mystery and ambiguity, with little to no physical evidence to back them up. But even if they're not true, they say something about us as humans, don't they? Our fascination with the unknown, our desire to believe that we're not alone in this vast universe. What do you think? Do you believe in alien abductions? Have you ever had an experience that you can't explain? Let me know in the comments below.